Just do a quick introduction. Myself, Councillor Matt Mitro, and Councillor Cindy Schulten, and of course, our honoree, former mayor and leader of the PC party, Andy Brandt. What we're trying to do with this stretches back to the beginning of the year. Cindy and Brian White, and unfortunately Brian couldn't be with us today. He's on vacation with his son in British Columbia currently, but I have a statement from him as well. We started talking about being 3 councillors that came on in this term of council. You know, how could we finish with something that was an initiative that we could put forward that would be lasting, right, and worthwhile. So what we decided was that you know, we immediately all, and this will sound corny, but we all thought of Andy Brandt, and we thought, okay, what kinds of things would be worthwhile to commemorate that Andy's done. He's done so much, it's hard to pick. We started talking about, you know, the various things you could do, you know, rename a park, pick a particular area in the city and commemorate it there with a plaque or something. And as we got talking with more people, it became clear that a really great way to do it would be to use the Marina, which was an Andy initiative. We wouldn't have that were it not for Andy's efforts as mayor, as member of parliament, to advance all of this forward. He was a voter, as you may have heard earlier, so it was something that you know, it worked. It worked for Sarnia, it worked for the citizens, and it has now been a fixture of Sarnia for closing on 40 years. So it's at a point where it could use a little help, and as well as that, naming it for the guy without whom we wouldn't have it makes perfect sense. So what we decided was we would look at doing that. A lot of people in the renaming processes have taken some time. It's been open for public comment, and it's hard because you can't announce before you're actually done the process. But this won't involve public money. This is all donors from around town, people who appreciate Andy's efforts through time and have gotten behind the project right from the beginning. Certainly think of Dave Brown, Bridgeview Marina. He's been a booster of it from word go. He's seen it as an excellent initiative, and we had a little bit of a. We don't want to take away from the fact that the building currently is named, and that started from the beginning. So the idea was that we'll talk about the entirety of the marina, and that's actually the accomplishment that got done. So the renaming will be, and this is just a little kind of an artist conception of the signage, the Andrew S. Brandt Marina at Sarnia Bay. And what that does is preserve the at Sarnia Bay. Everybody thinks of it as Sarnia Bay, right? And so this marina exists, it's on the bay, and that way you get all of that. It remains familiar for people, and it also commemorates Andy's efforts in putting it there in the first place. So it's a great way to do that. I think it's a worthy thing to do as a councillor. And I think what I'll do is defer to Cindy's comments as well on it, but we're happy to have this. We're proud and happy to do it for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, and we're not done yet.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for me just to start off with a couple of highlights, significant highlights of things that happened in our community over the years, especially for my generation, that have to do with Mr. Andy Brandt, because during that time, I mean, I was born in '76, so when you were doing all your awesome things for the city, we were busy graduating grade school and filling out our high school applications. So just to give people a little background on what Andy has accomplished. In the early '70s, Sarnia's downtown saw some tough times, but Andy didn't see that. Andy had his own vision to reshape the face of the city. So Andy went knocking on doors, and he secured private investors, and he secured $1.1 million provincial dollars to revitalize Sarnia's downtown. And that made Sarnia the first municipality in the entire province to get such a loan. Yeah. And in the 1980s, when our industry was booming, Andy decided we needed a new highway between Sarnia and London. Andy fought for that, and Andy won. And Andy played a key role in the development of the Sarnia Bay. So Andy's efforts made the construction and the ongoing operation of the marina possible. In fact, he was responsible for signing the deal with the provincial government for the marina to happen. And once again, Andy went and knocked on doors to secure private money, private investors to make that marina happen. So when people ask me, was Andy directly responsible for the success of the Sarnia Bay Marina? I say absolutely yes. Andy continues to remain on the standing committee for the Marina Advisory Committee, a marina which has brought millions of dollars to the Sarnia community over a span of many years. This isn't just about, actually it's not really about Andy's political background or history, it's about Andy's lifelong devotion to the people and places of the city of Sarnia. Andy steps up to the plate, Andy speaks up, and when Andy fights for something, he wins. And I see the result. When Andy wins, we all win. So this is why Councillors Matt Mitro, Brian White, and myself came up with this concept that we discussed late last winter and early spring. How can we honor such a man and at the same time find a way to revitalize a strong, important community asset in the city like the Sarnia Bay Marina, because it's really important that we update it. It's tired, it's old, it's dated, it needs some love. It needs to be revitalized, just like the things that Andy did and when the marina opened in '85, so it's time to fix it up. And we don't want to wait until it's too late like it is for some of our other assets. So what we did was we brought this concept in principle to council last May because we had to get things approved and follow the policy. The policy is the naming, renaming of buildings and public spaces in the city. And this was a policy that was created by the previous council in 2010. And its initiative is really about recognizing outstanding contributions from organizations or individuals such as Andy to the well-being of the people of Sarnia. Now, part of that policy has to do with, like what Matt said, geographic concerns. So we want to make sure that we're not taking Sarnia Bay out of the name, like Matt said, renaming it the Andrew S. Brandt Marina at Sarnia Bay. So we've covered all the bases that way. We've had it up for public input, and actually we've had some an amazing outcry publicly in support of this, in support of what Andy's done from really large, successful businesses and individuals. Let me just go to my notes. So we've done all that, and geographically it's covered. So now the next step is when and if council finally approves this on Monday night's agenda, then what will happen is the marina's operator, Dave Brown, and his executive staff will then work together to start coordinating the public dollars, the fundraising that's going to take place. And many, many people have already stepped up to the plate so that we can make sure that this isn't just a renaming, but we do what's right for the marina and enhance it for everyone. Because this is, and actually at that time, the city staff and Parks and Rec will also work closely with the team at the marina to ensure that our procurement policies are followed and reports come back to the community and to council. So this isn't just about renaming, it's about pumping life back into the marina, a marina which has contributed so greatly to our community, not just tourism, but to the quality of life to so many who live here, love the water, live on the water. So that's what we're here to do today, and just wanted to explain our efforts and why and how this all came about, and thank Andy personally so much for everything that you've done. I consider you a change agent, and you've been like a role model in the back of my mind the whole time. I've been a counselor for these last 4 years, and my slogan was the courage to lead, and I think about you reading all the history and seeing everything you've done. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Great, and I'd just like to read a statement from Brian White. As I said, he's on a trip with his son that's going very well, I understand. He says, "It's a rare opportunity for a council to unite in solidarity in honor of a true community builder. Mr. Brandt has led the city to unprecedented accomplishments during his time in public service and for the decades following. There is no better fit than the marina to provide an opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate his many accomplishments for the betterment of our great city." So I couldn't have said it better myself. That's fantastic. Sir, do you have any words you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I would. I have a 2-hour speech that I want to give now.
Yeah, well, we'll get started now then.
Yeah, you can.
You know, 25 years in Toronto is a long time. And the first 10 years, of course, I spent as a member of provincial parliament, and I had the opportunity to served 2 cabinet positions during that time. I was Minister of the Environment for 2 years, which is not exactly an easy ministry to be head of when you come from the city of Sarnia, because we have some issues here that have to be taken into account, and it was walking on difficult times to try to balance the environmental with the industrial and the needs for both. And I also had an opportunity for about 6 months before our government was defeated to serve as Minister of Industry and Trade. So that one was a very short period of time. But I reflect back on the time that we're talking about here, and that was when I was mayor of Sarnia and when I was a member of council. And there were basically 3 issues as I went into provincial government that I wanted to get resolved. One of them was the highway. The highway had been promised by previous candidates time and time and time again. And I went to Jimmy Snow, who was then the Minister of Transportation, and I said, Jimmy, if I get elected, I am not going to run again if I don't get the highway built. And he said, oh, Andy, we've got problems with finance. The city of Toronto is demanding that we build overpasses and that we build all kinds of expensive structures. And he said, I don't think we've got the money to do the highway. I said, Jimmy, then I won't be running a second time. I said, I'll be done, because I'm not going to promise the people of Sarnia I'll get the highway if I can't get the highway. So he reconsidered, and we reconsidered Jimmy Snow. If you knew how big he was about a foot taller than me and about 100 pounds heavier than me. So I listened to every word that Jimmy had to say, and he finally, agreed in principle to the completion of the highway. So that was my number 1 priority, was the highway, quite frankly. My number 2 priority was the Marina. And it was not in number 2 spot because I didn't have an important number 1, because important number 1 had stuck around Sarnia for decades. And finishing that was absolutely had to be done, and I wanted to get that done. So building the Marina started in a discussion I had with Alan Pope, who was then the Minister of Natural Resources. And I said, Alan, I want to get a marina built here in Sarnia. And he said, oh, we haven't got money for that. It was the same story you get when you go to the government for anything. And I had to make a deal with my good friend, and we finally made a deal to get the marina started, to get some funding money that was necessary to get it going. So that was the second priority, and I'm pleased to be here today to say in principle how happy I am that the marina is now being elevated to a position of acknowledgement by the city of Sarnia and by the council of Sarnia. That's very important to me, and I appreciate it. My third appointed and committed a priority was the hospital. And I wanted to get the beds built. An expansion of the hospital was absolutely necessary, as it is today. It's the same problem today, but back then it was a shortage of beds, and it continues to be a shortage of beds that they're trying to accommodate and to work out. So I got some beds. I didn't get as much of the hospital done as I wanted to get done, but at least I got it started. And I got some beds in addition to what was there at the time that I came into office. So those were my 3.
Scan?
Pardon?
You got the CAT scan, our first machine?
Yeah, that's right. I got the CAT scan cost $1,800,000. I remember that. It was a very expensive, but the CAT scan, I got that because you had to go to London if you needed a CAT scan procedure of some sort. And so that was an addition that we had that I got. And I'd hate to tell you the story of how that came about, but it was it was another story of political juggling that we had to do in order to get the CAT scan and to get the additional beds. So I'm very delighted, obviously. I'm overwhelmed at what the council have done and what they have decided to do in my honor, and I appreciate it deeply. So I want to thank them particularly. I also want to thank the citizens of Sarnia for supporting me over so many years. And I got to tell you, 25 years in Toronto is long enough for anybody. And you know, I keep talking about what a wonderful city Sarnia is and what a wonderful county we live in. And I'm very proud of this place, and I wanted to see some things done that weren't done before I took office. And I think we got some of the priorities covered, and we got some of the additions that we needed in this community and that were talked about. And, you know, talked about in election after election that didn't get done. And the highway was an example of that, you know, talking and not getting it done. And so, you know, I'm pleased that we got some of the major issues accomplished, and I'm delighted that the council have recognized that, and I appreciate it deeply. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes.
You're very, very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. This is again just kind of the artist's conception of what the signage will look like, and it's kind of in keeping with the way the signs have changed that you see around town now. So that's likely, I don't know location as of yet, but that's all part of what will come. Some people have been asking about what kinds of things will happen. There's the facade needs work. There's work structurally, lighting inside. You know, just there's a redecoration to happen at a very minimum, and then just updating the actual wharves and some of the facilities. The city has some ongoing money that they already had targeted, and I'm told that's about $70,000 that's being spent. This is over and above and privately funded as well. So it'll be a great boost. It's the kind of thing that Sarnians do really well. They rally around when you ask for something worthwhile, people step up and fund the process. So we're looking forward to that ongoing. Work in fundraising is already underway, and there's lots of commitments. I won't talk about exactly how much is done because the fundraising is not finished.
And we have final approval on Monday.
And again, I believe we've had indication that we'll have very strong support, if not unanimous in that. So unless there's any questions, that's kind of what we wanted to present.
Could I mention one thing that I forgot to mention in my comments? The city of Sarnia benefits from the marina in that we split the profit, the net profit of the marina goes half to the city and half to the operator, Dave Brown. Now, you might think, well, that's a very easy thing. You're just splitting the profits. I happened to check the 5 marinas in the city of Detroit to find out how they funded their marinas. I wanted to find out if there was a way in which we could improve on the process that we had in place. Every single one of the 5 marinas in the city of Detroit is in a negative position. In other words, they're losing money. They're not making any money. And they're marinas like the Sarnia Bay Marina. So not only is it making money, well, other marinas are losing money, but it is expanding. Dave Brown is putting another 50 boat docks in the marina, which will raise it to about 350 in total. And that makes it the 3rd biggest private marina in the entire province of Ontario.
Wow.
It's the 3rd biggest one. Now, you know, that's a pretty good acknowledgement of how it has expanded over the years, but expanded in a logical, reasonable, responsible fashion. It's still making money. And we now have a 10-year contract with the city. We had originally had 5-year contract. I say we because I'm chairman of the advisory committee at the marina now. And I know that we've got a 10-year contract in position we're probably maybe 2 years into that particular contract.
That's true.
So it's a 10-year order on both of our parts to continue to build and expand. The pool, as an example, was a shared responsibility and a shared cost. So when we put the pool in as another attraction for tourists and people who wanted to use the facility of the marina, the pool was a natural attraction. And we want to go even further now with additions that we've got in mind. So I thought I just mentioned the success of the marina is a very important part. When Matt was talking about the community support, it's a huge facility for our community because it brings in tourists, and you know, that coupled with the casino and other things that are going on, it makes Sarnia a very attractive place for you know, visitors.
Right. Well, that's very true. And the one thing I thought I hadn't mentioned is now with the boat ramp kind of facility in direct conjunction with the marina, it's basically timely to work on the rest of it and kind of bring it up to standard. And I hadn't indicated there'll be landscaping features that are done to kind of tie all of that together with the reinvigoration of Centennial Park. So.
And lastly, it's hard to say timing for this, and of course it'd be great if we get the final approval Monday and then things start happening with the coordination of the donations. But it'd be great when the boating season's over to start starting to get that work physically done.
Yeah.
So that's all we have, unless there's any questions. And thank